If you're stuck around 40 FPS and dreaming of 80, you don't always need a new GPU. Most people do settings completely wrong. They slide everything to low. The game looks ugly and it still feels bad. In 2025, the smart move is a targeted settings pass that hits the right options in the right order, based on whether you are GPU bound or CPU bound. That is how you go from 40 to 80 without just turning your game into a blurry mess. Start with a clean baseline. Turn on an in-game performance overlay or use a simple monitor and look at two things: GPU usage and CPU usage. Play a heavy scene. If your GPU is at 90 to 100% while the CPU sits around 50 to 70, you are clearly GPU bound. If the CPU is slammed near 100 while the GPU dips low, you are CPU bound. This matters because GPU settings and CPU settings are not the same. If you are GPU bound, your first lever is resolution and resolution scaling. At 1080p, dropping to 900p or using a modest resolution scale can free a big chunk of performance, especially when combined with good upscaling tech. In 2025, that means using DLSS or XeSS where available. Set them to a quality or balanced mode before you start hacking away at everything else. Often, this alone takes you from barely 40 to the 50s or 60s. Next, hit the big GPU-heavy visuals, shadows, ambient occlusion, reflections, and expensive anti-aliasing. Ultra shadows in many games cost a lot for very little real gameplay value. Drop shadows from ultra to high or medium. Turn down screen space reflections and crazy ray tracing passes, unless you specifically care about them. Switch AA from heavy modes to something cheaper. These changes protect your image while giving back frames. Texture quality is different. It mostly depends on VRAM, not raw GPU power. If you have enough VRAM, keep textures high or at least medium, so the game does not turn into a muddy blur. People often drop textures and leave insane shadows on, which is the wrong way around. Your goal is sharp, clear textures with simpler lighting, not sharp lighting on a blurry world. If you are CPU bound instead, your targets change. Lowering resolution does almost nothing for you. You need to attack CPU-heavy options: crowd density, physics complexity, foliage density, view distance, AI count, and sometimes traffic or world simulation. These are the things that make your CPU calculate more every frame. Dropping them from ultra to medium can smooth your frame times way more than dropping your resolution ever will. Simultaneously, cut the background noise. Close browser tabs, launchers, unnecessary overlays, and chat apps you do not use mid-game. A CPU that is already working hard in-game does not need 15 other programs poking it from the side. If you can, set your game to a high-performance power plan and make sure your Windows and brand control panels are not forcing quiet or eco modes while you are trying to play. Now, after this targeted pass, you should already see your FPS climbing and, more importantly, your frame time stabilizing. This is where most people stop and either accept it or complain. But there is one more lever that does more than people expect: a smart frame cap. If your monitor is 60, 75, 90, or 120 Hz, set your cap slightly under that value and turn on adaptive sync if you have it. This keeps the GPU from chasing pointless extra frames and smooths delivery. For example, if you are bouncing between 40 and 70 FPS with bad frame time spikes, you might drop some settings, enable quality DLSS, lower crowd and shadows a bit, and then cap around 80. The raw number might not look insane on a spec sheet, but in actual play it feels like night and day compared to fluctuating, unstable frames. You get quieter fans, cooler time, and steadier input response. Another big mistake is running games in their default presets without looking for hidden killers. Many modern titles ship with motion blur, film grain, depth of field, chromatic aberration, and overdone post-processing that do nothing for your ability to see and play. Turning these off or down not only cleans up the image, It also lightens the load slightly and reduces visual noise that can make lower FPS feel worse than it really is. If you are still struggling after all of this, look at your storage and RAM situation. Games installed on a slow or nearly full drive can stutter as they stream assets. If you have the option, put your main game on an SSD or NVMe and leave at least some free space. Make sure you have enough RAM for that title. A game chewing near the total system memory while you run a browser and chat app on the side will cause swapping and micro-stutter no matter what settings you pick. Then there is the thermal side. A GPU that is constantly bouncing off its temperature limit will downclock and lose performance in long sessions. Check temperatures while you run your test scene. If your GPU is hitting very high numbers, clean dust, improve airflow, and consider adjusting fan curves. A cooler card can hold boost clocks longer, which effectively raises FPS without touching a single game slider. The real point of a 2025 budget settings pass is this: stop randomly dropping everything to low and start thinking in terms of targeted smart cuts. Use upscaling to keep resolution reasonable. Protect textures if you have VRAM. Lower or disable the heavy lighting eye candy. Reduce CPU-only simulation. Set a same frame cap and make sure your storage, RAM, and tong are not sabotaging you. Do not chase the highest possible FPS number for screenshots. Chase a stable, consistent frame rate that your hardware can hold in the hardest scenes. Going from 40 unstable frames to 80 stable ones is not magic. It is the result of understanding what actually stresses your GPU and CPU, and then making the right trade-offs instead of random sacrifices. Once you learn this process, you can apply it to almost any game. Test whether you are GPU or CPU bound. Adjust the matching settings first. Use upscaling intelligently, trim useless effects, and lock in a sensible frame cap. That is the real 2025 budget settings pass. If this breakdown helped you see a path from 40 to 80 without instantly buying a new card, follow and subscribe for more honest PC performance tuning guides.